Hi, I'm Colleen, and minus Chrissy today. She's not feeling good, but we are the CSisters, and we are meeting and having an episode with Stacy. She just putting out a new book, and the book is called Good One God. And is this your second book?
That actually is my first book, and it came out 2 years ago, but I have another book that's coming out in a couple months.
Okay, and what's the name of that one?
That one's called Dear Teacher, I'm Watching You, and it's a suspense novel based on something I went through, but it's still a clean book, and it's a Christian book as well, because it is something that leads people towards Christ.
Oh, what a great inspiration.
Yeah, I'm hoping it will be.
Yeah. So this being your first book that you put out, what made you just start to be a writer?
Well, I am a retired teacher, and I taught elementary, middle, and then I taught college students last. But when I taught second and third grade, I found that my students began really loving to write when I started writing stories that had them as the characters. So I would try to find out as much as I could about all of my students. And then for their birthdays, I would write a story about them, and I would read it to them in class and give them the little book. But then also, during different times of learning different styles of writing, I would also add them in as characters. So it would keep them engaged.
Yeah.
And the kids absolutely loved it because they would like to hear their names popping up in stories throughout the year. And so I just started enjoying the writing piece, but never really thought about writing a book until later. And this book, Good One God, came about because I was driving my son, Zach, to hockey one day. And I like to say that I was doing the mom thing where you point out beautiful things in nature. And I would point out flowers and the beautiful colors of the leaves. And this particular morning, we were driving and a sunrise was coming up. And I was pointing out all the colors in the sky, and it really was extraordinary. And normally he didn't really care much about that kind of stuff, but he actually started taking notice and really enjoying how the colors were changing in front of him. And he was about 7 at the time, and he looked out, and he just gave God the credit by saying, "Good one, God." And it was just such a sweet way of giving God the credit. And it really touched my mama's heart.
Yeah.
And we started using that phrase in our family when something great would happen, or if they passed a test, or, just if they came across something beautiful, or if I see something beautiful in nature, or just, anything good happens. I like to give God the credit because you can find things daily that are good one God's.
Yes.
So I decided to write a book about it, and then I kind of used my dad and the kids as inspiration. And the Mississippi Gulf Coast, because that's where my family lives, and my mom and dad grew up there, and I love the Gulf Coast there, and it's beautiful, and I love every coast, so this is why I live where I do.
Yeah. So a little bit of background for both of us is that we met through the women's Bible study that we do where we live in Summer House.
Yes.
And we got to know each other and understood that we're both writers.
Yes.
And through some of the Bible studies, we've had deeper relationships and got to know each other a little bit better. And then both of us just got back from the Woman of Joy conference, which was just so spiritually enriching and powerful.
Yes.
And informative that I tell anybody that hasn't gone, you got to go.
Yeah, there's really no way to describe how much it can do for you, but every one of the different speakers touched my heart in a different way. And although they all talk about Jesus, they all talk about your relationship with God or building community, the way they spoke about it or used scripture was just refreshing and new. And then the worship, it was glorifying. And there were about 5,000 women there, but to hear 5,000 women's voices singing together was
In unison.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it really gave me chills. It was really beautiful. It has to be the closest thing to hearing, what you're going to hear in heaven one day.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. So I would definitely be returning next year. You can't keep me away.
Yeah. But what also was very informative too about that was the fact that it wasn't just speaking to you as a Christian. It definitely was focusing on your womanhood and women community and the special situations that us only as women go through too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's why so many women are just drawn to that weekend. And it just feeds our souls so much because they really know how to give back to women and they know exactly what our needs are. And they just find the perfect scriptures and the perfect stories from the Bible that resonate with us.
Absolutely. So this weekend, with you going through that, did you find any inspiration for maybe future books that you might write?
Oh, goodness. I always have 3 or 4 different books going in my head all the time. So I don't know that any one particular book popped out from this weekend, but I'm always thinking of new things as I go along. And sometimes it's just a matter of hearing a phrase or even just the way someone says something that will resonate with me, and I'll put it in my notes. Sometimes it's a matter of just watching somebody, how they laugh, or somehow how somebody walks or does something, if it's a little bit out of the ordinary. And I think it might be interesting to put a character that walks that way or talks that way, because it adds interest to the story. So sometimes it's just a matter of doing that. So I constantly have notes in my phone that I hope that will make my writing better.
Yeah. Who was your inspiration?
I just had so many different books that I loved. But, as a kid, my all-time favorite book to read over and over and over was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I just loved that because it was just such a heartwarming story of a little boy that didn't have anything at the beginning, and then was able to find the golden ticket, and it was just such a heartwarming story at the end. And then also he has such wonderful relationships with the grandparents in that story, and I had good relationships with grandparents, and I want that for my kids as well. So there was just relational parts of that story that were really important to me, and I think that's really huge to me, like relational things, and my relationships are big, even with my students. I have a lot of my college students. In fact, some of them are coming to visit soon in a couple of weeks, and just all of those things are important to me. And I also loved the Little House on the Prairie, that whole set of books.
That is a really good set.
Love. So I can't wait until my grandchild I have 2 grandkids, but I can't wait until they're old enough to read those, because I definitely want to get those for them, and I think they'll love them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but those are my children's favorites, I think. Childhood favorites.
Oh, I can see why. Because you can reread those and see a different point of view every time.
Absolutely. And there's good conflict in those. And
good, healthy conflict.
Yes.
Very clean writing.
Yes.
I don't think we find that enough these days.
No, we don't.
Whether it's writing or movies or music.
Oh, no. It's hard to find, actually. It's very hard to find. And even when you think you're going to find something, you can get, 2 or 3, into a TV series, and you can watch 2 or 3 shows. And then maybe by the 4th or 5th one, you're like, oh, I can't watch this any longer. Because then all of a sudden something crops up, and you think, well, this isn't Christian, this isn't godly. And then you have to turn away from it. But
we've done that.
Yeah, many times. And we just think, well, this isn't what God would have for us. So you have to turn it off. But that's what God intends for us, to make those choices.
And I think it's harder to kids these days to really understand that. So Ted Decker has a youth novel series that takes his writing and adopts the different struggles that teens find out these days and incorporate it into these quests that they're doing, which I love. And I actually bought them for JR. And he's like, Mom, we got to keep getting more of these. These are really good.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, I wish more famous writers did stuff like that.
Yeah, the YA book genre is, they're starting to get more writers to kind of go into that area. But for a long time, it was just kind of a genre that was not getting enough writers. And so they were almost begging writers, please, come into this area, because they knew that the middle grades and the high school grades just needed good, clean.
They were thirsting
writing.
for it.
They were. And we were losing them as readers. We still are losing them as readers because they always got their technology with them, and that's the way they read now. So, but that's not reading per se.
Right.
So, in my mind, as an educator, I don't call that reading.
Right.
I like a good book in my hand.
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, I've tried to be a little more patient with my kids because they have more books than I've seen in any kids' rooms.
Wow.
And they read and reread and reread these books
fantastic.
all the time. Especially the rule is no electronics at night. An hour before bed, you read.
That's awesome.
Which they do. Actually, they fall asleep reading sometimes. I actually had to get the little light to clip to the books.
I love those.
But I mean, Harley was so excited. She's like, Mom, I know I didn't do my private lesson this week, but thank you for the $50 for the book fair today. Because I'm so excited to get the new Dogman series book, and then 2 other books. And
that's awesome.
But I will spend that $50 any day over the tchotchkes and all the overpriced.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk in those book fairs too, if you're not careful. But a lot of kids will go for that.
Well, see, earlier this year, they had to pause and not start the book fair because a parent complained there were inappropriate books being sold. And they spoke up.
Good for them, though.
And I wish more parents would be aware of what is being taught to your kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because these days, a lot of it is not very good.
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
Teachers are stressed. I think that the requirements for teachers these days in regards to tests and stuff like that is just way too much. And they're not able to put their personal spin on teaching.
For sure.
And a lot of these teachers, they know everybody learns differently. So they're trying to fill every one of those facets. But it's like they're being more mental health advisors than teachers these days.
And they're not trained to do that. And so
right.
We talked a lot about that when I worked at UNCG, that because I worked in the education department preparing juniors and seniors to go out into the field. And when I was leaving and going into the field, they didn't teach us to deal with kids with trauma. And there's more and more kids that come with trauma now. And I remember, I was taught how to teach reading and how to teach math. But then when I got into the field and realized there was so much more to teaching than just teaching the reading, the math, and you spend so much time trying to build relationships, but also help these little ones that do have, struggles in their lives and challenges. And if you don't have someone there to support you, fortunately, we have good counselors and social workers, but they can't be there all the time because they've got, maybe 1 or 2 per school. You have to do a lot of that in the classroom yourself. And so I think colleges are starting to see that they need to add some classes. I know at UNCG they were talking about doing that, and we were starting to have some trauma-informed information in our classes. And
just like a intro to psych to understand like the gateway part of it, at least.
Absolutely. And just, how... but a lot of it is just relationship building. So students are comfortable having conversation with you. And if they're not even comfortable having good conversation with you, they're not going to open up. And so that's the bottom line, is making them feel that they can come to you.
Yeah. Well, and that also builds, some of these teachers are inspirations for some of these kids for their entire life happens in elementary school.
Oh, for sure.
I can name my teacher that influenced me, that taught me about never giving up, and that just because something hard, it doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the hardest things to get are the most important and rewarding.
Yeah. I had some teachers like that too. I had a couple that really made an impact on me. And then also some Sunday school teachers that were impactful for me that I can look back on, that were important to me, and youth group leaders. And all of those people helped mold me, I think, and I'm grateful to all of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So have you always had this faith growing up? Or when did you realize, I am a Christian, and go from there?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a strong Christian household and have generational Christians in my family. And I know not everyone is fortunate enough to have that. But, what you learn over the years is that you have to take on that in your own heart too. You can't just lean on someone else's Christian thoughts and lives. And, you just can't say, well, my mom was or my grandma was. You have to own that yourself. So when I was 13, I became a Christian when I was at a camp, and our church went away for youth camp and became a Christian. Then later in that year, I was baptized. And then I think it took a while for me to develop and mature, obviously. And that's always a process, and you kind of, it's kind of like ebbs and flows, like anything in life. And I think as I've had some struggles and challenges in life, I've fortunately gotten stronger in my Christian walk with those challenges, and God has pulled me closer. And so it's been a good thing, because all of those challenges have been things that have allowed me to see that, like, prayer is something that has, particularly in like my second book, I really talk about how prayer and leaning on Him was something that I absolutely had to do, because I was about to crumble if I didn't have Him.
Right.
And so, yeah, especially when you get to, your adult life and you have tough topics and tough things you're, going through, that's when you really, kind of decide, am I going to do this with or without God,
Right.
And so, yeah, I was really fortunate to have a Christian home, and my grandkids are being raised that way too. And so we're just thrilled to know that it's just continuing on, and yeah, very fortunate.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's great when you see your grandkids accepting it.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing that makes me any happier.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Well, that's why I told my kids when they accepted Jesus Christ into their heart as a Lord and Savior and confirmed it with baptism, I said, you now gave your mother the greatest gift she could ever have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, truly, there's nothing better than to know that they will be in heaven with you one day. It's the only thing that matters, really. The only thing. And so, you can say, okay, I'm done. Everything else is just, whipped cream on top, because it's all good. Yeah. That's good. That's good parenting. You did well.
I tried.
Yeah.
It was hard.
It is hard. It's hard stuff, but and you have to have a tribe of people around to help you with that.
That, I don't know if I had that a lot.
No.
But I did have a firm foundation.
Yeah.
And I did seek God first.
Yeah. Well, that's so important.
But now living in Summer House, that's a different story. I mean, we have our Bible study group that keeps on growing and growing. Yeah, I have this amazing church that I'm a part of now with so many different things. My kids would rather be here every day. And my daughter calls this her castle, and she's a princess because her father is the king.
That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
She's just,
I love that.
The fire and the thirst for knowledge and just the fire for God, both my kids have, just humble me every day.
Wow.
They really do. Like,
that's incredible.
I don't know what I did. I am so thankful and blessed. And they have helped me through these past few years that have been the hardest probably of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had some major challenges.
And it's it hasn't just been one or two.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah,
It's been like 3 or 4 all at once.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's probably why I haven't finished my book yet, because I still feel like there's more to write per se.
Yep.
But I know that your books are going to be so impactful to somebody.
No, thank you.
I really feel that. I really feel like they're going to read this and they're going to thirst for more, want more.
I hope so. I think the one thing that I like about Good One God is that it's simple enough to teach little ones or adults that you can just look in the world every day and just find something that reminds you of God's hand and how he is so creative and he created everything. But we just need to slow down and pause every day. And, it's really hard because we are just on this little hamster trail of life and just go, hamster wheel, I guess. And we just are always going. I feel that way sometimes. And I have to make myself slow down sometimes and look around at the flowers, enjoy God's beauty and creation, and just enjoy the people around me. Enjoy hearing laughter, enjoy all of those things that are just God's gifts to us.
Yes.
And you can find many things during the day to say Good One God about. And I think that just positive attitude and glorifying God by giving him the glory and the things that you see have to make him smile, And so, yeah, I hope it does. And I plan on writing a follow-up to that one called Great One God. And it's almost done. So I'm hoping to get that out shortly. And then the other book too is really mostly about, I ended up having a stalker when I was teaching. And so that one is really about the fear and anxiety I went through. And I really wasn't leaning on God initially because I was in fight or flight mode.
Yeah, I understand.
And I was, and even though I was raised in the church and should have gone into prayer immediately, that was not my initial response because it was truly about survival. And my mind was creating things even that weren't happening because when you can't control someone or someone's thoughts or their actions, then you begin to think, well, this is probably going to happen, and this is probably going to happen, and you make it worse in your own mind than it really is.
And that's the devil's handiwork.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, he was working overtime on me. And then, eventually, months later, I really started realizing I was really falling apart. And it really came down to just, begging God for help and begging him to
just finally surrendering to him and asking him for help.
Absolutely. I just could not do it on my own anymore. And he was there, and it was.
And you forgot that he was there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there were times that I called out to him, and there were times that I prayed to him, but it should have been a constant thing, and it wasn't. And boy, did I learn a lesson. And so, it was really good for me. It wasn't fun to learn that lesson that way, but
some of them are not fun.
No, but I will tell
agree.
you. No, I know, right? But I think when we go through trials and challenges, and we get on the other side of it, and we find God in the middle of it, then he can use that to help others, and he can use our story,
Yes.
And I always say there's a story in every seat. Each one of us has a story, and our story is our story. And he knew I was going to have that story, and he knew how I was going to react, and he knew I was going to struggle. And so anyway, it's been a good thing. And I just pray that other people that are struggling with fear and anxiety can read it and then also find that they can go to God during those times.
That is going to be very powerful, because a lot of us deal with fear and anxiety these days. A lot of us are so caught up in what the world is doing, the world news, all the negativity, that we forget if we change our mindset and just look to God first and be reminded of all the blessings that we have around us, and all those times that He didn't answer our prayer for a reason, and protected us. But also looking at the blessings that you spend more time at doing that, you'll find that your heart health is better.
Oh, absolutely.
And definitely diving into the Bible every day, prayer is definitely important, but community, we learned this weekend, is just as vital these days, that you are going to have a weak moment. But if you have a sisterhood or a brotherhood around you that is supporting you, even in your weak moment, you have hands holding you up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's just been my biggest blessing moving in Summer House. I mean, if when you move here, you're close to the ocean. You can get so caught up in just the beauty around you, which is so easy to do because it's all created by God. But honestly, my biggest blessing has been that Bible study group, because I had been missing having really tight girlfriends. And although I had, a friend here and there, I just didn't have my girls, and so I just kept thinking, it would be great to move into a place and just find a couple close friends. And boy, did God provide. God over provided.
I think we have over 30 people, maybe 45 by now.
I don't know. It's incredible. And I mean, just the sweetest women of all walks of life, from different backgrounds, different religions, and
just accept you for who you are.
Unbelievable ladies. Yeah. And
run by the most amazing woman.
Oh, yes.
Felicia is amazing.
Totally. And and I think, she sets the tone for that.
She does.
And I love it because people are just so wonderful to one another, and there's no gossip, and I don't feel any clickiness. And so I just pray that the Lord keeps blessing it, and we have a hedge of protection around us, that the enemy just stays far, far away from us.
Right. That He keeps on whispering us
absolutely
of what He wants us to do.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, in regards to your books, is there any future plans for you to write a Bible study?
I have not considered a Bible study, but I have considered having a book to go along with the Good One God and Great One God series, where
like a devotional?
Yeah, kind of a devotional, but also a way for people to write down the ones that, if they see something, it's kind of like they can journal their Good One God moments or their Great One God moments. So I've been thinking about how that would look, and I haven't made a real strong decision about that yet, but I think I'll end up talking to my publisher about that, and finding out what we feel is the best route to go. But yeah, I really will consider that, because I think it would be nice to have something to come alongside with both of the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost like a tie-in together.
Yes.
Of your journey in the process as well, and how you grew.
Yeah, and I think too, it would allow for, and sometimes when you read a children's book, you stick it back on the shelf and you don't think about it till the next time you might pick it up. But this particular one, I think, you really could tie it into having a journal where you could say, Good One God, in a daily way, and keep reminding your family this, even though we read the book on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we could still be looking for Good One God moments. And as a family, you could write them down. Where did you find a Good One God moment at school? Where did you find a Good One God moment when you were at recess? Where, who was kind to you on the playground? Who helped you, when you needed help? You can find those moments often. You just have to be looking for them. And sometimes I think we just rush through life and don't give God the credit where he's due the credit.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I've tried to explain it, especially my daughter who's in public school right now. I'm like, it's not what they say or do to you that matters.
Right.
It's how you react to it. And that speaks volumes, not just about you, but about your family, about your character, and about your faith.
Right.
And if you are a true Christian, are you doing the Christian thing? We all want to yell back. Sure. We all want to be mean, but it's not going to solve anything, and it's not going to bring them closer to God. And isn't that the point?
Exactly.
We want to get people closer to God. We want people to know God as much as possible. And we want to save as many people as we can for God, but it's his will. So I try every morning to be like, all right, God, what do you want me to do today? Because he always wants you to do something today. He always wants you to talk to somebody and just do something for his glory.
Yeah, pointing people towards him instead of away from him.
Just like
people
this.
People are watching.
Yeah, just like this. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't want people to see us in this. I want them to see God.
Absolutely. Yeah. This
see God in your story.
Yeah.
See God in your book.
Yeah.
See God in your life. And see how, just because you say that you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and confirm it with baptism, that's the beginning. And that's the beginning of the hard part.
Yes.
He never said it was going to be easy. He just said it'd be worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We still have challenges. We still have fears. We still have anxiety. We still have things that everyone has. It's a matter of how we respond to all of those challenges, and do we seek God in the challenges? And
absolutely,
and that's where people watch us, and how we respond to them. And I think it can give Christians a really great name, or it can give Christians a not so great name, and we see that happening everywhere, and I think it's time for us to step up and give God the glory, and make sure
we're putting our best foot forward.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I would ask you is that we all have a journey. We all have our seasons of up and downs.
Sure.
Where do you feel that you're at right now?
So, it's interesting. I was just talking to a girlfriend about this. My writing journey, and I speak to at conferences sometimes too. And so some of that has been, I would say not stopped, but slowed down a little bit, because my parents are aging and they're my priority right now.
Right.
And I see that, that God has allowed me to have time with them, and that has been a gift. And so I always know that I can come back to the writing when I need to. And God will give me time when he desires for me to pick those things back up again, so
right.
He'll allow me to have whatever is needed. But right now, this season, I think is really just about family, and is about giving back to them and making sure their needs are being met. And so that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is just spending time with them and making sure that they're well cared for. They were both sick recently. And so, just taking care of them has been really important. And they're getting better, which is great. And God has seen them through some difficult times. But, and then I do plan on continuing to write, and I write for different magazines occasionally. I do podcasts occasionally. So I don't want to quit doing that. And I have another suspense book I'm about halfway through with. And I've got a couple other children's stories that are done and, could be published within the next year or two. So it's a matter of just God's timing for all of those things.
Yes.
And, what publishers say and all of those things. So I'm just leaving it in God's hands, and he will, he'll make those decisions alongside of me. And I think, I just allow him to kind of set the tone and tell me when. So, I'm not rushing it. I'm just letting it happen.
Right.
But it's just been a fun ride, and I've been enjoying it. And so I just hope that, with this next book being completely different from a children's book, I hope that people not only enjoy it, but can see God in the book. And
take something away from it.
Take something away from it. Yes, it's a suspense book, but yes, it's based on, and of course I embellish the story a little bit just because, it's a novel and it's fictionalized. But I also want people to see God, and I want them to understand that in a challenging time, that the end result is go to Him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one last question.
Mm-hmm.
What was your aha moment that you're like, this is what I need to do?
You mean becoming a Christian or writing?
Writing.
Well, I think the aha moment was when I heard my son say, "Good one, God," in the car. And I truly had this...
God tapping on your shoulder?
Yeah. I was driving to hockey, but, and I was like, how in the world am I going to do something with that little phrase? Mm-hmm. And it just kept spinning in my head over and over and over again. It woke me up at night. And God wakes me up at 2:30 a lot, and I do a lot of writing in the middle of the night. But it just was spinning in my head, and it was not going to be let go. Mm-hmm. And eventually it was, birthed into a book. And I just felt like He had a plan for that. And so my son, was always like, I had a part of that too. I'm like, yes, you did.
Yes.
And it was a really sweet moment. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the look on his face. I remember every mm-hmm. part of it. But I do feel like that was in that moment. It was really special. Mm-hmm. And, there are certain moments in your life where you remember very specific things, and that was one of those. And okay. I really do feel like God did a little tap, like something's going to happen with this. And I didn't know at the time what it was going to be, but He just continued to work on me a little bit.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really special.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here and for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
you get to
pleasure.
See the other side of what I do.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Come hear more on our podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget, even in the roughest waves, we know who calms the waters. We will see you next time on The CSisters.